starting. Right, we are live. I believe we are live. This is Ring the Bell podcast number 2, and I am here with my co-host Nathan. We have got quite an interesting show today, a lot to cover. If anybody is in here live, I know people usually watch these after they finished, but the topics of discussion are in the chat. I've posted them there. And so we're gonna get started with fights that are happening in the future, because everybody's already talked about the fights that have just happened this weekend. So we're gonna start with Price versus Povetkin. Why has this fight been made, Nathan?
Because Povetkin wants an opponent to make him look good, and David Price is the perfect man to do it.
That is true.
We know it.
Yes, I concur.
Not a competitive fight.
No, I concur entirely. This is about Povetkin is number 1 for the WBA, which means he will be called as a mandatory for Anthony Joshua soon. And they want the casual fans to see Povetkin get a stunning knockout before that fight gets mandated. That's my guess. I think that's probably the most sensible logic behind why. But as this is heavyweight boxing, and as David Price is a giant of a man, it would be hilarious if he iced Povetkin in Cardiff on the AJ show. It would just be the funniest thing in the history of heavyweight boxing, I think. If people know Price's story and they know what happened in his last fight and the fight before that, I think, wow, just it's amazing that he's got this shot. I hope he doesn't get knocked out too hard, but god damn, this fight is crazy.
Imagine if he pulled it off. Wouldn't it be even more crazier?
It would. He would be in line to fight AJ. He would be the mandatory for AJ's belt.
Oh dear. It's shocking, isn't it? But, you know, Povetkin hasn't looked too good in his last 2 fights, has he, to be fair?
He's looked a lot... I mean, if you were going to fight Povetkin at any moment in time, now is the time to catch him, it seems, because he seems to be off the performance-enhancing drugs, and his knockouts have dried up a little bit because of that. So if there's ever a time to catch Povetkin, it might be now, but that's very optimistic. I don't think anyone is seriously expecting David Price to win this fight.
Right. If he put... Sorry, yeah.
No, yeah. You carry on, bro.
If he pulled it off, I think it would be a miracle. He'd need a miracle to pull it off.
Well, he does have what we know as a very, very strong right hand. But the problem is, Povetkin is probably the worst style for David Price, because David Price is okay and he might be able to knock you out if you stand at range with him. But Povetkin likes to come in on the inside and sit on your chest and rough you up. So it's the absolute worst style for David Price.
I think will happen in the fight is that Povetkin will crowd him, make him feel awkward, back him in the corner, slowly walking down for two rounds. Povetkin will probably just go easier, and then he'll go for the kill, and that's it, just to prolong it, just to get some rounds.
I think we're basically going to see Povetkin adopt British fighters' mentality, like a Froch or like a Stephen Smith. He's going to put his hands up in front of his. He's going to put his hands up in front of his face, and he's going to walk Price down, and Price is going to hate every fucking second he's in that ring.
But imagine what Kamil Solowski did. If Kamil Solowski can do that to him in the first or second round like he did, then it's over in the first round. Really,
that's what I mean. That's what I mean. I think Povetkin's just going to bum rush him. He's going to come in, hands up over his head, keeping a high guard, because Price doesn't really throw to the body, because when Price throws to the body, he leaves his chin exposed. So Povetkin doesn't really need to worry about blocking to the body very much. So he's going to come in with his hands held right high up like an old school English boxer's guard, and just take it to Price on the inside, and Price will fold. Everybody knows that Price will fold.
It's not much to imagination, this fight, is it? Because we know how it's going to go.
No.
I can see it in my mind now.
Exactly. This isn't a fight like, oh, what's going to happen? It's like, we know what's going to happen. It's going to be horrific.
When I saw the fight was made, I was like, no, I thought I was going to have a stroke. I couldn't believe it.
Do you know what? I can believe it, because do you remember when Paul Smith fought Andre Ward?
Oh, it was ridiculous, yeah.
It's a similar fight to that. It's the same sort of fight to that, where you've got a guy who's got no chance in any department of winning the fight, and it's just pointless. But we'll move on from this one anyway. I'll watch it. Good luck to Price. I hope he doesn't get too badly hurt. I hope he's getting paid well. That's sort of my outlook on the fight, really. I don't know how interested I am in watching it, but it's on a good card, so I probably will end up watching it. So, yeah. So, number 2 in the news. This was a piece of news that has been coming for a while. I've known about this because the Ring magazine have a very kind of strict rule that if you haven't fought someone in their top 5 for a year, they strip you. And so Tyson Fury has been stripped of the Ring magazine title, which it's a bit sad timing because he's coming back to the ring, he's getting in fit, he's getting in shape. But rules are rules. It's not likely he was going to come back and fight someone from the top 5 of the Ring magazine's ranking. So I can see why it's happened. What are your thoughts on this one, Nathan?
I think it's about he had to be strict, really, didn't he? I'm surprised they left it so long. To be honest, not being disrespectful to Tyson, 2.5 years without the Lineal Championship being defended, the Ring magazine being defended, it's not healthy.
No, I agree. I agree entirely. I love Tyson Fury. I know you love Tyson Fury, but there are limits, and I think it's only fair enough. What I do think is, as soon as he is fighting someone in the top 5, they should give him an opportunity to sanction that belt again for that fight, because I think it's not going to be too long. But if they want to give it to AJ in the meantime, it's quite likely. It might even get sanctioned for the Parker AJ fight, if I'm being completely honest. Maybe the timing of the strip has something to do with that.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, there is some interesting news about the Ring magazine, but apparently the Ring magazine are not going to sanction the fight between AJ and Parker.
They're not going to. Wow.
No, that's what I read. There's an article about it I sent you. And their reasoning is because Parker's ranked number 3 and not ranked number 2.
Right.
They can't do it. They said if he was fighting Wilder, they'd do it. So I think they're just waiting for big unification.
Right. That actually makes more sense. To be honest with you, I don't really have any objection to the Ring magazine title being fought for between number 1 and number 3, because even that is quite rare in boxing. So I think it's a bit too strict. But if they know that the AJ Wilder fight is close, then maybe it's reasonable to wait for that fight.
I mean, in the old days, people would wait 3 or 4 years to get that Ring magazine. Maybe it's just over the top. I mean, really, isn't it? It's not what it was, this Ring magazine title, and I don't think anybody really cares, really, do they?
I think what's interesting is boxers care about the Ring magazine belt far more than boxing fans. I think that's been true for a long time. Boxers love to have the Ring magazine belt, but I think casual fans don't really understand the history of it or understand why it's so important. But there we go. That's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes, isn't it? It's unfortunate, but
okay.
Yeah, we'll move on to the. We'll move on to the next.
Carry on.
Well, we'll move on to the next topic, which is topic number 3, the Okolie versus Chamberlain card. Now, I am just bringing it up.
Carson Jones to start with.
Sure, we can start with the Carson Jones fight versus Ted Cheeseman. Now, this was a really interesting fight for me because I thought Carson Jones looked good in there for some rounds, and he really did well. But he'd just passed it, and I think sometimes you can see in a fight when Manny Pacquiao fought Horn, you can see that something's just gone. Something's not there that it used to be. Maybe it was that he came in 5 pounds too heavy, but I think Carson Jones will be a bit disappointed with himself, even though he stuck in there. He showed heart. He gave a great fight. I think he'll be a bit gutted to lose to Ted Cheeseman because Ted Cheeseman was getting clipped a lot in that fight. He was, especially in the early rounds when Carson Jones had a lot more stamina. He didn't look great. He looked a lot better in the second half of the fight, and he really came on top, and he really managed to kind of, not sneak home the win, but he managed to sort of run away with it at the end, and that was good.
I'm going to give you my take on it. The first 2 rounds, Jones, Jones was just getting to him, and you could see Ted was uncomfortable. Yeah. Then after the 4th round, Ted just took over. He started throwing 3 or 4 punch combinations.
I completely agree with that assessment, but I personally think it has a lot to do with the fact that Carson Jones came in 5 pounds too heavy.
Yeah.
And he had energy for 4 or 5 rounds, and then he was on reserves for the rest of the fight. And because Carson Jones is a very fit man, his reserves are good, and they lasted him and they got him through the fight. But I don't think that was the Carson Jones that fought Kell Brook the first time would have beat Ted Cheeseman that night.
What
so
we've got to be respect. I mean, did you see the footwork that Ted did where he sort of turned
great.
awkwardly?
He's great.
Turned sort of awkwardly.
I've got absolutely no complaints with Ted Cheeseman's offensive ability. I just think he got hit so much in those first 4 rounds. It's a bit of a worry. If someone can do that to him who has good stamina, they won't stop like Carson Jones did. And I think that's where it the kind of worry for Ted Cheeseman comes in. But it was a great victory. I personally would take him down the European route.
Yeah, better route, yeah.
I'd go and get him that European title, and by the time he's won that, he'll be a lot more experienced and probably ready for the world title fights, in my opinion.
Don't forget, he's only 22, so I'd say that's about 3 years he'll be fighting for world title the way he's going.
Exactly. It was a great win over a good name. Eddie Hearn does do a good job. Yeah, in his 12th fight. Yeah. Eddie Hearn does a great job of that. He finds these opponents that they still have a name, but they're not quite what they used to be. But the fans don't really necessarily know that. And it's very interesting because Ted Cheeseman has a more convincing win over Carson Jones than Kell Brook did. So in that sense, it's very impressive.
We can't read too much into this win, really, can we? Not overall entirely.
Exactly, yeah. It's it's a live. It's one of those things where it's hard to say. You don't want to take any credit away from Ted Cheeseman for the victory, but you also don't want to overhype him and make it out to be something it's not. So in that sense, it was a good win. He moves forward. I'd look to take him down the European title route right now. I've got a Baron Singh messaging me telling me to see the live comment section. Unfortunately, Baron,
I can tell you what it says. I'll go to it now.
Oh, okay. I haven't got. I haven't.
I'll tell you what. Baron said, "Why didn't Tyson Fury just schedule a fight if he needs to postpone?" I love Fury, but he's just lost his biggest bargaining chip.
Sure, but the thing is, you have to fight someone in the top 5 of the Ring magazine's rankings, and if you look at those, there was no one that he could have scheduled a fight against. Really,
okay. He
wants to fight Shannon Briggs, and Shannon Briggs is definitely not in the top 5 of the Ring magazine, sadly.
Right. A Baron's written another comment. Unprofessional of Carson Jones not making weight. No excuse for not making weight.
No, he did it on purpose.
What goes in your mouth?
He did it on purpose, man. It was completely professional. He came in 5 pounds heavy, expecting to knock Ted Cheeseman out in the first 5 rounds. And when it didn't happen, he thought maybe because I've got a good points lead, I'll be able to keep that, but he couldn't quite do it. So in some senses, it was a very technical decision, a very old school mentality. Nathan will tell you this. It was more common in the old days for people to just blow weight, just to come in and smash someone up. So it's not unheard of. It is unprofessional, I agree, in the modern game, but Carson Jones was doing it tactically, in my opinion. He wasn't 5 pounds heavy by accident. That was on purpose. So
just a shout out to a Baron Singh before we move on.
Sure.
Pakistan Cheers for boxing.
There's some good questions there, Baron. Actually, I like those. They got me to think. But yeah, I appreciate the live chat. I appreciate anyone getting involved in the comments. Right, did you see the Nick Webb Ante Veronica fight?
I did, yeah.
What a knockout that was! He only
was brutal, wasn't it?
He clipped his whiskers and he was out cold. Nick Webb looked terrible in there, though. I've got to be honest.
He did, yeah.
He looked, apart from the knockout, he did everything else wrong. Essentially, he can still be trained to do better. He can. I've seen him fight better than that in the past. He's had a year out. He's had some unfortune. He's had some bad luck. But
he does need to get someone like an AJ to spar him, to grab hold of him, saying, "This is what you're doing wrong. Do it the way I do it."
Yeah. So Nathan Gorman and Daniel Dubois both pulled out of fights against him. I did not know that. That's very interesting. I'm not going to call them ducks, but that power is a worry, isn't it? Like, you wouldn't want to. Yeah. No one in the heavyweight division wants to get hit with that cleanly. So he does have some good tools. Let's just hope someone can. Basically, he needs to become. I think Tony Bellew said it right on the commentary. He needs to become a traveling sparring partner, so that he can just stay in the gym all year. He needs, because he's changed his physique a lot and he looks healthier and he looks fitter, but he needs to be just sticking to living boxing for the next year. And if he does that, he can still move on.
All he's got is that knockout punch. You take that knockout punch away from him, he's ordinary. I don't want to be nasty.
He's probably less than ordinary if you take that.
He's had 12 fights now,
away from him,
fighting nobodies, and I reckon Dubai would beat him. I really do think Dubai would destroy him.
I do too. However, him is still a dangerous fight for anyone. I think Nathan Gorman would be I think he might beat Nathan Gorman because Nathan Gorman hasn't developed his man strength yet, and he hasn't developed his power yet. And whilst Nathan Gorman is great at movement, holding, Nick Webb could still get that one shot off on him.
Daniel Dubois,
same, I think, but I think Daniel Dubois is less risky because.
I'm going to be straight with you. I don't think Nick Webb is better than British level. I don't think he can get past British level. I think if he gets to European, he'll struggle. If he doesn't learn how to move.
Sure. I think that fight it really undersells him a little bit. If you go back and watch some of his older work, he's not as bad as he was in that fight. He's been out of the ring for a year. We've got to give him a little bit of cut him a little bit of slack. But I agree.
How would he do against David Price?
Oh, he'd knock David Price out.
He probably would, yeah.
David Price can't take that power. My more concern is I think he would lose badly to the likes of a Dillian White, a Hughie Fury. That level of boxer is going to cause him a lot of problems. So I do agree with you. But I think, his power is going to get him some way. And I think I am interested to see him fight again. And hopefully he looks better technically in the ring next time.
Well, like I say, he may get a British title shot and win it. But anything past that, and I think he's going to be struggling to win any. Well, he's not winning any world titles. That's for sure.
I kind of agree, unless he has a drastic uptick in his performances. Yeah. But yeah.
How old is he now? 30? Is he 28?
Yeah, no, he's 30 years old. So
he's left it way too late, I think.
Yeah, it is a problem. And he's had that really bad year last year where he fought once. No, he fought twice last year, but only in January and March. And then he had like a whole year out of the ring. So that's frustrating as hell when you're 30 years old. So
yeah, I mean, look at him and Joe Joyce, completely opposite ends of the spectrum, these two. You know.
I just have to give one shout out to one of Nick Webb's opponents. I don't know if you know this, but Nick Webb actually beat the legend Yakov Gospic.
I remember, yeah, I saw that fight.
So, just a little shout out there to Yakov Gospic, greatest heavyweight in boxing history. Right, some of the other fights on this event, there were some good ones. Fight? I did. That was on the Facebook live stream, wasn't it? It was
that was a rubbish fight.
Yeah, it was. It was bad. Paul Butler should never look that dominant against anyone, but he did, and he won easily. I can't even believe BoxRec gave that a 1 star. I'm not sure about that. I'm not so sure about that myself. Yeah, I saw it. Paul Butler got an easy win, and hopefully we'll see him in a bigger, better fight next time.
Okay. Reece Bellotti.
This was a great fight. Ben Jones, unfortunately, this was a little bit the same as Carson Jones. The two Jones on the card had aged just a little bit too much to make the fight a 3-star fight, but it was a good fight whilst it lasted. Reece Bellotti has a lot of power for a featherweight. Great knockout, great finish to the fight. Good win at British level. I think it was Reece Bellotti's first real test. No, he fought Jason Cunningham and Jamie Spate as well.
The WBC featherweight thing.
Yeah, so it was, that's his second tough fight in a row, actually. So to give Bellotti some credit, he's looking good at British level. I'd move him up to I'd move him onto European level myself.
It's hard to believe he's won a world title, isn't it? Really, when you think about it.
Sure.
He only beat Stuart Hall. I don't want to be disrespectful.
What, Bellotti?
No, not. Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. I thought I need to. Bloody hell. Sorry, yeah.
No, Bellotti hasn't yet. He's.
No, I'm sorry. I'm getting mistaken for Paul Butler. I don't know why I bought that up.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was a stupid thing to say.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Bellotti, yeah, he's all right, man. I like what he's doing. He's done well at British level. He's won the Commonwealth. He's defended the Commonwealth. Maybe he'll defend that one more time. I don't know if you get to keep the Commonwealth outright like you do the British.
I think you do, yeah. You do.
Yeah, so maybe he'll defend that one more time to keep that belt. That's probably a good idea. And then move him on to... Yeah. So he'll move on to European level pretty soon. And I think I'm interested in Bellotti. He's got a lot of power. It's no joke at all.
I was impressed. I mean, he's going places, that boy. Right. What else was there? I didn't watch the Gamal Yafai fight. I didn't watch the... I watched the Joshua Buatsi.
That was a good fight. Well, to be fair, Jordan Joseph, he was 7-1-1.
Yeah, but who did he fight? Do you see what I mean? It's like who's on his record?
Sure, he didn't. He beat Daryl Church and he beat Eric. Yeah, it's not beaten some great people, but when you've got a winning record like that, you're not necessarily a journeyman so much. You're sort of I guess you're still a prospect because he was only 22 as well. So I think it was a good win. I think Buatsi looked good. I mean, who's Buatsi really fought before Jordan Joseph as well?
We know his pedigree. We know this boy's pedigree. He's an Olympian. Did he get silver? Sure. I couldn't remember what medal he got. Was it silver?
I believe he won the silver, but let me type in Buatsi on Google.
I think he did. But we know he's above this level, and it's only a matter of time before
he won the bronze. He won the bronze.
But with his talent, it's only a matter of time. I know people that have his genetics. Like his genetics, his family come from the same place where what's his name? Joshua Okolie comes from.
Yeah.
The same tribe. So,
I think Buatsi's a great fighter. I think there are some. He's 4-0 now, right?
Yeah.
I believe so. Yeah, he's 4-0. There were times where instead of looking to box, he was just looking to punch. When he got it, he got his guy in the corner a lot, and maybe this is just to do with the opposition. But I think we need to see him in fights where he's going to have to box and move. Someone's going to throw punches at him. We need to see that.
Yeah. I think it will be interesting what happens,
A Baron's asking for a review of the KSI fight. Absolutely not. just
give it for a laugh.
Not.
Bring it up for a laugh if you want.
It's been brought up and I've laughed at it. There we go.
Okay.
It was funny. Do you know what? I'll give a Baron his little moment of me reviewing the KSI fight. What the hell was Joe Weller thinking? Like it didn't even look like it was. I don't know if it was the same weight class. I don't know if they weighed in, but KSI just pretty much just smashed the shit out of him.
Wasn't this for a YouTube belt or something?
Yeah, it was. It's for the YouTube belt.
Said that
it's a made-up belt.
Chisora
gave him the belt. Yeah. But
what does it look like, this belt?
Oh man, it's tacky. It's like the YouTube play button a little bit. I wouldn't bother with it. It's tacky. But I tell you what is interesting: the number of views it got, the number of tickets they sold.
Was it on the card? Was it on the card?
No. It was on its own live stream on YouTube, and it got. I think it might be over 1 million views now. I would have to check, but I wouldn't. I think it had like 900,000 people watching it live at one point. So fair play to them both, man. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous, but you can't knock it if they did good business. So yeah, I'm looking on KSI's channel now, and he's cut the 30-minute video of the stream.
What is KSI anyway? What is all this?
KSI is a YouTube channel. I thought you would have known about him.
No, God, no. What do they do?
KSI, I believe they used to. I think they got famous by playing FIFA and being funny whilst playing FIFA. I could be wrong.
Oh, the black lad.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, I could be wrong, but I think he got famous from playing FIFA and making stupid, funny videos. Like, that's essentially what I think it was. But I could be. People can feel free to correct me on that shit. So they sold 8,000 tickets, and they had a gate of £900,000, and they had 1.6 million viewers. So a Baron's just sending me that information. Thank you for that, Baron. So, I mean, fair play to them. That's good business. Like, if there's two other YouTubers that want to get on a fight, they should go and speak to KSI and Joe Weller to help them set it up. Because
a Baron Singh, me and you can fight. I fight in Pakistan.
I don't think so. I think I tell you what though, what else was quite funny about it, and I think this is true, is Joe Weller was streaming it on his YouTube channel, and KSI was streaming it on his YouTube channel separately, and I'm not sure who got the more views, but I think they were like fighting it out over that as well. So that's quite funny.
YouTube belt. Oh dear.
Yeah.
It's like something at the WWE.
Well, why not, man? Like, it was a one-off freak show. Boxing's still alive and kicking. No one killed boxing. Right, we're getting distracted from
the main event.
Card.
The main event.
Right.
The main event.
Well, actually, I had one other fight I wanted to talk about. Felix Cash versus James Hedgenamana. It was a good little scrap.
That was over 2 rounds, weren't it?
Yeah, it was all right though. Yeah, it was all right. I mean, it was a guy Felix should be beating. But
he was the Belgian middleweight champion. This guy.
Yeah. But he was 8-6. So I mean,
he was terrible. He was terrible.
He was bad. But it's just, I tell you what, it's nice to see is a young English middleweight. We haven't had middleweights about in a while. We've got featherweights, we got super middleweights, but there aren't many
middleweight. Not on the domestic scene.
Right, there aren't many middleweight prospects on the domestic scene. So it's just nice to see someone coming through. Hopefully, we see him in bigger fights.
With the middleweight division, it is a worry, isn't it? It is a worry because you've got Martin Murray's on the downside. You've got Billy Joe Saunders, who probably won't be boxing in 5 years. You know, all these kind of boxers.
If he is, he won't be at 160.
No, he'll be at super.
Yeah.
But no, his performance is good. Again, you can only beat what's put in front of the other guy.
Sure.
He looked hurt from the first round, didn't he?
He did every shot. Every shot hurt him.
Yeah.
I think Felix Cash does carry a fair bit of power. He's got 75% knockout ratio.
But do you think in the 5th and final round, when they stopped the fight, they should have stopped it like 2 rounds before? Because the guy, he looked ready to go from the.
Oh yeah. He was done. There was a little bit of that going on all night actually. So when Nick Webb knocked out Fuentes or whatever the guy's name was, the referee started counting, and it's like, nah, you don't need.
What are you counting for?
You don't need to count for that one. And then this fight as well, I agree with you. It could have just been over a round or 2 earlier, but you kind of have to blame Felix Cash a little bit for that. He could have put more pressure on and forced a stoppage. So I'd like to
just getting the rounds in.
Sure, that's another possibility. I'd love to see Felix Cash fight the likes of because there is one other good middleweight from Leeds, that Reece Cartwright.
There's another one as well. Bradley, not Brad. Forget his name. Fowler. Is that Fowler? Is he a middleweight? Fowler?
I think he's fighting at 154. Anthony Fowler. I think he's actually started his career at 154, but I could be wrong. I can't see him on the middleweight box rec list here. So yeah, Fowler is 154. A Baron's saying, so I think I am right on that one.
I've got a message from a Baron here. It says Nick Webb looks like the love child of David Hay and Derek Chisora.
That's fucking true. That's so true. That is true. If Derek Chisora and David Hay had a baby, it would somewhat look like Nick Webb. That is funny, Baron, man. That's funny.
Move on to the main event of that.
Yes,
card,
this was a stinker by all accounts.
It's terrible.
This was just terrible. I couldn't believe. I've seen worse tactics one time, and it was when everybody agrees on this one. Scott Quigg against Frampton, where he did nothing for 6 rounds. And I can only imagine Isaac Chamberlain was told to do the same thing, because there were times where he was looking over at his corner like, what the hell are you telling me to do here? Why can't I fight this? Why won't you let me fight this guy? And the problem was that by the time he was ready to try and implement his tactics, or the corner's tactics, Okolie was too far up on the points. He was too dominating the fight too much, and he'd taken too much out of Chamberlain, who was the smaller man, by just leaning on him. I do think Chamberlain got a very unfair rub of the green in this fight, though. So in the first round, that was never a knockdown in a million years.
No, but he only just cuffed him, and then he went down, didn't he?
What happened was he threw a punch and then leant on Chamberlain, and the leaning is what knocked him over. Like he pushed him with his body, sort of thing. If you watch it again, Chamberlain ducks a punch and then gets sort of bundled to the ground, and it's just not a knockdown.
But then Okolie throws him to the ground like he's in a wrestling match.
In a wrestling match, and that should have been an actual point. That should have been a point deducted, because if you're in the second round, which I know you're about to say, Okolie got Chamberlain got a point off for holding when at no point in the fight he had held at all and had no warnings at all. It was the most insane point deduction I've ever seen. So if that's a point deduction,
Okolie did all the holding.
For the rest of the fight. Tactics. I know it was a horrific fight to watch. Okolie
dreadful.
Basically fell in with every punch. So he would punch, but then he would also smother his own work by bringing his feet too close to Chamberlain. And then he would grab hold of Chamberlain and sort of make it look like Chamberlain was holding him. And it was just, he did it all fight. And the fact that the referee kept punishing or telling off Chamberlain for it was just pathetic. So I feel a bit sorry for Chamberlain in there. The other thing is, Okolie is naturally too big for cruiserweight, and he will not be able. In there. He will not be able to make
like a light heavyweight.
That's the thing, right? Chamberlain's a guy who's slightly too big for light heavyweight, and Okolie's a guy who can cut himself down to cruiserweight. And so it was almost like 2 weight classes difference in there. It was pretty crazy, actually. So yeah, I feel sorry for Chamberlain on all those fronts. However, Okolie did do enough to win the fight because Chamberlain just didn't do much in the first 6 rounds. It was a terrible fight all round.
Do you know what this fight reminds you of? Have you seen the first Audley Harris and Danny Williams fight from 14 years ago?
Yeah. Where they're just both too novice. They're both too novice to fight each other. But at least in that fight, they both went for it a little bit. In this fight,
when Harrison got knocked down,
at no point, even the second knockdown, right, that Okolie got on Chamberlain, it was sort of a cuffing shot, and then only his hand went down. It wasn't like a full-on good. There was nothing really that exciting in the fight. It was just a scrappy, horrible fight to watch. But Okolie wins. Chamberlain can come again. The only problem is with a fight like that, I think Chamberlain has to consider going on like a 6-month diet and dropping down, because otherwise he's going to come up against big problems against any of the Usyk, Gassiev, Dorticos. All those guys are massive compared to him. So
you know what? I think he could win a British cruiserweight title, but that's as far as he goes at this weight. I don't think he
can. I think even what's his name? Is it Luke Watkins?
Yeah,
is the British cruiserweight champion right now, I think, or maybe he's the Irish cruiserweight champion. No, it's not.
He's somebody else.
Right? Yeah, he's the Irish. Yeah, he's the Irish.
Not Matty Askin.
No, it might be, but Luke Watkins, I think, would beat Okolie, and I think he would beat.
From what I've seen of Okolie, I think he can go a long way.
No, I don't. I don't think so at all.
Probably European level. Probably European, if he's lucky.
He can do European level, no doubt, but there is no way that he can beat Usyk, Gassiev, any of those guys, Dorticos, Bradus. They are all far, far, far too good.
Do you know
for him.
what?
And if he does,
put in a comparison. If you compare, if you compare a David Hay from 2001 or 2002, who was 22, and him and Okolie, there's no comparison.
No. And also, so Baron's saying Matty Askin is the British champion. You're correct on that.
I did get that right then, okay.
Yeah. I'd like to see that fight too, but I just think the likes of Luke Watkins, right? Luke Watkins, every time I watch him box, he's not special, he's not amazing, but he does all the little things right that I see Okolie doing wrong. And I think he'd have a little bit too much nous for him in there. Okolie is an absolutely terrible boxer. Terrible boxer. He throws punches that don't exist, like the most unorthodox punches that no trainer in the world would show a man how to throw. He throws this sort of uppercut hook in which he jumps into range with. And if he does that against someone good, he'll just get knocked the fuck out. instantly. So I don't see Okolie as all that good personally. I think he's got a lot of learning to do. I think
he's only where he is because of his Olympic ties. That's it. That for me.
Sure. I think he's got a lot of athletic ability, and I think he's got a lot of power, and he's got a good body shape. Like his arms are long. He's got a good shape for boxing, but someone needs to teach him how to throw a jab and a right cross without jumping on top of his opponent, essentially.
Baron is giving his opinion here. He says Matiaskin would be too much. Would be too much for Okolie by the looks of it.
I'm going to be completely honest with you. I haven't watched enough of Matiaskin to know.
Well, I think Okolie can beat him personally. You know,
I haven't watched enough of him to know, but I would be worried about putting Okolie in against him next. I don't think he's ready yet. I'm just looking up Matiaskin on.
He's not nothing special.
No, he's not. He's fighting Stephen Simmons for the British Cruiserweight title on the 17th of March, and I think I personally think, I personally think Matiaskin will win this fight. Yeah, so it's hard for me to know 100% how good Matiaskin is. However, I would definitely pick Askin to beat Chamberlain right now because Chamberlain's too small.
Pro? I think he became pro in like 2005. Is that right, or 2007?
2000. What, Matiaskin? 2008.
Yeah. So he fought for the British title against. Did he fight a guy called Rob Norton?
Can't see it on his record. Can see Neil Dawson.
What has he got on his record from 2010?
2010.
2019. Any British title fights back then?
No, the first British title fight for Matiaskin was Neil Dawson 2011, and he won.
Who did he? He must have fought.
Oh no, it wasn't a British title. It was a Central Area title. Sorry. The English title, he fought John Lewis Dickinson in 2012, and he lost. He fought Krzysztof Glowacki and lost.
So I think Okolie would beat him, to be honest.
No, I don't.
Because he's had a long career, hasn't he, Askin?
He's only 20. He's only 29.
But you know what I mean.
I don't know, man. I don't know, man. He's lost twice to Glowacki and John Lewis Dickinson. Oh no, and he lost over McKenzie.
Look at John Lewis Dickinson's record. Look at John Lewis's record. He lost to Enzo Macronelli in a controversial fight about 5-6 years ago.
Yeah, I remember that.
And he's got an awful record now. So based on that, I actually believe he'll win. Okolie would win that.
I don't know, man. The thing about Okolie is he's got so much to learn yet. He could win with a powerful shot. But I don't think he beats any of these guys boxing. If it goes to points, he could very easily lose to anybody who's a decent boxer. That's a problem. But yeah, interesting anyway. Right. What a terrible fight. It's fascinating how such a hyped fight can just turn into absolute drat. But yeah, we'll move on to an absolutely brilliant fight that happened over the weekend. Murat Gassiev versus Unie Dorticos. Did you see this fight?
I forgot all about it, to be honest. I watched some of the highlights. I saw the 3 knockdowns from the 12th round. I saw he got knocked down by a right hand, was it? The first knockdown? Yeah. Then he got up again, then he got knocked down again. Then he went through the ropes third time, is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, it was a good knockout. It was a good finish.
10 minutes. Looked a great fight.
It was a great fight. It was. They did. Dorticos did not embarrass himself at all. He just sort of ran out a little bit at the end. Yeah, it was a great fight, to be honest with you. Uppercuts, crazy hooks, both of them landing big. All fight. I would definitely advise anybody that didn't see this fight to go and watch it. Dorticos actually looked Very good in the early rounds. He was sort of putting on a little bit more pressure, maybe not landing as powerfully. I think Gassiev just had a big power advantage overall, which is interesting because Dorticos is known as the knockout artist, the power puncher, but Gassiev just looked a little bit thicker in there. I've got it up on my screen now, and yeah, he just looked a little bit more solid when he landed. Even though he was fighting off the back foot and he was the one moving backwards sometimes, his shots just looked a little bit like they had that little bit more sting on them. And so, yeah, it was a great fight. I don't know why I had to watch the Okolie Chamberlain fight over this one.
Oh, dear.
But I did.
Because I did.
Sure, we got sold hook, line, and sinker, but this was a much better fight. Absolutely hyped for the tournament final now for the cruiserweights. I think I still lean towards Usyk. I still do lean towards Usyk, but
just.
It's such a great fight. It really is, and I think it's fair to say at this point, 1 and 2 in the division, they've earned their way there. They've had to fight
a closer fight than the Dorticos fight. Much closer.
I think it will be a very close fight. I think Usyk will nick it because of his movement and his jab, but I think it's going to be
superior height.
Right, but other than that, I think it's going to be an absolute war, and I cannot wait for it. I mean, the other thing I was saying earlier is, I think I said this to you when we weren't streaming, is I would very much like to see Dorticos versus Bradis for a sort of 3 and 4 position place-off, and then the winner of that gets another shot or something. So I think this tournament was great. I think it's made, I'm so happy there were no major pullouts or injuries. It's made for great TV. Every fight in the cruiserweights has been pretty damn good. Other than
this
maybe
whole division, right, is interesting because I mean Ledebev obviously has been more or less been dumped on the scrap heap now. Because now
yeah, but he's old.
Yeah.
He's a bit old now, so I'm not surprised. I don't really think he stands much chance against any of these new guys. These new guys have come in. Gassiev, Dorticos, Usyk, and Bradis. They've come in here and they've sort of put they're going to be the top guys in the cruiserweight division for a few years.
Because I pick Usyk to win this tournament, I think he should go up. If he unifies all the belts,
I think
he's got nothing else to do it.
I think he will because I don't think he'll even unify all the belts. I think he'll win this tournament.
He'll do what David Haye did. He'll win 3 belts and then go up.
Maybe, but I think he'll win this tournament and then he'll be offered a fight at cruiserweight for maybe 10 million, or he'll be offered to fight Tyson Fury, Joseph Parker, Anthony Joshua for 25 million, and he'll just take the 20. Who wouldn't take the 25 million? So,
but I'd advise him, if he did go up, to have one or two warm-up fights, and then fight for the title if he's in the position.
I agree, but I don't think he will. He's not that kind of.
Someone like a weak champion, couldn't he? Like a Char, if he gets a chance, that's the title he would win, I believe.
Sure, but
because Char's been knocked out by Bradis, hasn't he?
The problem is there's no money in that fight. Like if he's going to fight Manuel Char at heavyweight, he might as well rematch Gassiev or Bradis or Dorticos.
But it would give him a way to fight the other champions, and they'd have to fight him.
That's true. And give him more money. That is true. It's long term versus short term. It just depends how he views that one, isn't it? But what a great fight. Fight of the year contender. Great knockout for Gassiev. I really do look forward to the final now. I'm leaning towards Usyk. I think most people are, but it's still a very great competitive fight. Well worth watching.
It's a shame we can't get a heavyweight one of this, isn't it? And a light heavyweight version of it as well. Maybe
we can, but it can't be. Heavyweight would have to be. I personally think the best way of doing a heavyweight one would be to do a British heavyweight tournament, because it wouldn't cost as much. If you tried to do a heavyweight tournament for Wilder, Povetkin, Parker, Fury, AJ, the money you would have to put up is
astronomical, wouldn't it?
Unreal. So I don't know if it can happen, but maybe it can. Every fight would have to be pay-per-view, though, for sure.
But I don't know how this tournament can all be pay-per-view as it is. Do you agree with it? Because I don't think some of these fights are pay-per-view, you know, for this World Boxing Series thing, the way it's all been pay-per-view.
So I think that last night's fight was on ITV4.
Yeah, definitely, that was pay-per-view worthy.
Right, but I don't actually... Was it on pay-per-view or was it on ITV4?
I think it was on pay-per-view.
Okay. Well, in that sense, then, yeah, that's not ideal. I think making the final pay-per-view is not a problem, but I think I would never have made the qualifiers and the semi-finals pay-per-view. I think that's a bit much, because now if you add up the total price to have watched this tournament, I bet it's quite a lot.
Yeah, George Groves, his next fight is 17 quid.
Yeah, but that's...
But I can understand that. That's a big fight in this country.
Eubank Groves was always going to be pay-per-view. They could have made that $19.99 and people would still buy it, to be fair.
Because it's a great fight. And the card doesn't look too bad.
Sure. I think the tournament's been great. I do think they this tournament a little bit. I think when they announced the tournament, everybody was very excited, but I was thinking that's too soon. You're going to fail to get TV dates and you might end up rushing this. And I think that happened a little bit. We saw that because Usyk versus, it was Bradis, right? That wasn't shown on American television. Now that's crazy. Even if you just sell it to an American TV company for a couple of million, that's got to be better than not selling it at all, so that no one sees it. That's
definitely.
So I hope they put a little bit more thought into how they're going to televise the next tournament they do, and put a little bit more work into making sure that all of the biggest fights everybody can see. I think they need to do an online service like the World Boxing Super Series. You pay $60 and you can watch the whole tournament, and then you get every fight online. I think that might be the most sensible way of doing it.
Yeah. Right, shall we go on to our next topic, number 5, which is the ring card girls?
So this is an interesting topic. I don't know if you watched the Johnny Nelson, Eddie Hearn
Didn't get
interview.
To see it as of yet, but I don't agree.
So they had a little debate about this, and Johnny Nelson was just like, no, this is stupid. Like, why at this point would we change something that's been in boxing for hundreds of years? In the actual arena, there is no way of people to see what round it is. If you're on TV, it's easy because you get the little Sky Sports numbers in the corner of your TV. Yeah. But when you're actually in the arena, there is no big screen. There's no way of putting up how many rounds have been passed. So
what is going on?
It is actually functional.
But what's wrong with this world we live in now? You know, it's so PC. What, they're going to have little dwarves come out and do it just because it's equality? You know, fuck all that. Common sense. Don't change it if it ain't broke. Don't fix it.
Right, I agree entirely. I can kind of understand why they're doing it in F1, because in F1 the women just go there and stand there, looking pretty. They're not really performing any function in terms.
But it's part of the whole image of motor racing, and that's a different thing. Do you understand what I mean? That's a completely different image.
I agree entirely, but I can kind of, at least from a corporate side, understand why you would say, okay, well, they're not really performing any function. So, like, that's the distinction between boxing and F1 a little bit. But I agree with you.
Do you think the world's gone mad?
I think the world's 100%. It's not really doesn't really seem to be harming anyone. Yeah, in
just
any
because
great.
Some women are just because some feminists are offended. But who cares what they think? You know, it's tradition. Don't mess with it.
Sure, I think we need a protest march of the ring card girls.
We do, yeah. I like watching them anyway. I love watching the women when they do the cards.
Sure,
bloody male doesn't.
Sure, I think that's another thing is like, if it's not harming anyone and everybody agrees that the job, nobody's being forced to walk around with a ring card. No one's being held up at gunpoint. So I don't really have a problem with it.
It looks awkward is when you've got women fighting the ring. To me, that looks a bit out of place. No one ever mentions that.
Sure. I don't particularly mind watching certain high-level women's boxing, particularly amateur boxing. I don't really mind that.
Watching it.
Right, but I don't really like to see women bloodied and bruised and beaten up. That's not something I've ever been keen on watching.
No,
but yeah, it's an interesting one. I think what's going to happen is Sky will not take the ring card girls away from boxing. I don't think Matchroom will do it because
the comments as well
on that video. Sure, that's another thing. The comments on that debate were overwhelmingly like, Eddie, do not do it. Do not do it. You will get backlash against that. Sure.
I don't think they'll do it. They'll do it, will they? Surely not.
BT. Oh, it's an interesting one. BT. They might stop using ring card girls.
Oh dear.
It's an interesting one. BT are a little bit more
politically correct
than Sky, for sure. Sky sometimes don't really care. Watch this space. I do think it's crazy. I think, like, why would you...
The real world doesn't work like that. Do you know what I mean? The world doesn't work like that.
Sure. You can't just find something... Sure. I mean, you can't just find something that offends you and just scream until it
be like saying, no, we can't have a... Actually, I won't say that because that's too controversial.
Well, there's so many things that offend me, but I don't try and get them banned. I just don't watch it. That's like, if something offends me and I don't like it, I don't watch it. It really is that simple. I don't try and get stuff banned or people's jobs lost or fired, or I don't try and change the world to conform to how I need it to be. That's extreme. People should... Right. We've got two more very interesting topics I would like to go over before the end of this podcast.
Joe Joyce, ain't there? Joe
Joyce versus Chisora. This is really interesting because David Haye has been proven a liar again, and he can't help himself. He lies over everything, even the smallest things. So he said he offered Chisora 80 grand, right?
I saw that, yeah.
But if you go back and watch the actual video, he clearly offers him 60 grand. It's on video. It's on video. And then he's like, no, I didn't. It's like, it's on video. It's on video. You can't lie about this.
Chisora's a millionaire. Chisora's a millionaire, you know.
I know. Chisora's actually
That's an insult to him.
Chisora's quite smart with his money.
But 80 grand to him, that's disgraceful, isn't it?
I think Chisora would fight Joe Joyce for 150 grand.
Well, if you were Eddie Hearn, you wouldn't want him to take the fight, would you? Because he's too valuable. I don't mind. There's bigger fights for him but there is bigger fights for him further down the line, isn't there? The problem is matched with chumps.
The problem is Chisora lost his last fight.
Yeah,
so he does
if he has a couple of wins, he's right back in the mix. Therefore, if he used to fight 100%. Joe Joyce, what would his career be worth? What would his market value be if he loses his fight? There won't be any market value on him anymore. If he loses,
there still will be, actually. Chisora has never cared about losing fights ever.
Yeah, because he knows more defeat, and I think he.
Sure, I personally, if I was him, I would. If I was him, I wouldn't take it now.
You wouldn't take the fight, would you?
I would take the. No. I'd take the Joe Joyce fight when my career was completely over.
Oh, really, Dan? Really dead.
Yeah. No, he's got a fight. He's got a fight in March on a Sky card, so they can't make this Joe Joyce fight soon anyway.
What Chisora needs to do, if Eddie Hearn is going to back him like he says, he'll get him a couple of stiffs like he did before. What with the general? Have you noticed with Chisora, when he loses to a good fighter, he has about 3 or 4 rubbish opponents.
Yeah.
Then manage to get a big fight. That's what they should do. Give him 2 fights between now and then. If Joe Joyce, but for Joe Joyce, this fight is come at the right time because I think he'll beat Chisora.
I don't think Joe Joyce will beat Chisora right now.
I think he will.
I don't think he will. I don't think he's quick enough. Chisora's slow, but the only boxer I've ever seen slower than Chisora is Joe Joyce. So, it's a close fight.
Joyce is too big. I think he'd be too big. He'd basically stay on the outside, jab him, and when he had Chisora's there for the taking. I believe. Good fighter. But
I agree with you. I think Joe Joyce probably would win because Chisora doesn't have any motivation left. But
he's a walking punch bag in his last fight.
Sure. That's the problem. The other problem is, I only really want to see Chisora fight when he hates the person he's fighting.
And I don't think he hates Joe Joyce.
I
think he likes him.
He does like Joe Joyce, and he likes David Haye, even though they had that rivalry in the past. They clearly have a respect for each other. I personally only want to see Chisora fight Dillian Whyte again. That's the only fight.
This is a good fight for Joe Joyce. I think he can take Chisora now. We even said that I don't think Chisora is 10 times better than Lewison. Do you? I really don't. If Dillian Whyte struggled with Lewison,
I think Chisora would beat Lewison better than Dillian did.
Yeah, but when I look at it, I just think Joe would be too big, too strong, and he'd just fight on the outside. Do a Klitschko to him, basically, just to keep it on the outside.
I'm sorry, but I cannot agree. I agree that he's too big and that he would box him from the outside, but comparing Joyce to Klitschko is a stretch because Joyce is slow and Klitschko is very fast for a heavyweight. But I get what you mean.
I'm going to have to disagree with you on this, I'm afraid, my friend.
Why?
We'll see what happens. We'll make a bet on this.
No. I think Joyce will win. I'm just saying, I don't think he's as fast. I don't think you can compare him to
slow as a molass. He's that slow.
Sure. I'd compare Joyce more to basically a bigger Derek Chisora.
But with skill. But with more skill.
Some
silver medalist. He's a silver medalist. Yeah. You don't get those medals for free.
That's true, but we're coming on to our next topic right now, which might actually debate that one. So, the Olympic Commission have discussed whether or not to remove boxing from the Olympics. Now, this is fascinating. It's not just that they've had a discussion about it. I'm actually bringing the article up here. They have threatened to remove boxing from the 2020 Olympic Games. The International Olympic Committee threatened to axe boxing from the Tokyo 2020 Games on Sunday as it opened an investigation into the sport's governing bodies and said concerns lingered over possible match fixing at Rio 2016. So, you don't get those medals for free, but it does look like you might be able to buy them.
We've seen so many crooked Olympic things, like when Roy Jones was stripped of his belt, stripped of his medal, a gold medal he clearly won. Sure. But he got silver, because it was in Korea. That sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's happened to everyone.
Mick Conlon. Mick Conlon, and at 2016, he clearly won the gold medal, but they gave it to another guy. Gave it to a Ukrainian guy, which I think it was Ukrainian. Is interesting because so one of the big problem for the AIBA is they have instated a new president, and we talked about this before, Gafur Rakhimov, and he has been described as one of Uzbekistan's leading criminals by the US Treasury Department, which has frozen his assets in the USA and claims he has links to the heroin trade. So AIBA have made their president like some sort of drug kingpin. And so the Olympic Commission have said, nah, even we can't accept that. We're pretty corrupt at the Olympics, but even we can't have that. That's too corrupt. So when you're getting told you're corrupt by the Olympic Commission, you're pretty fucking corrupt. So that's a fascinating one, man. It's a fascinating one.
You can't get rid of Olympic boxing. I mean, is it just a ban for that Olympics?
It would be a ban for the 2020 Olympics until they basically sort out their governance, their refereeing, and their anti-doping issues. They demand a further report by April 30.
Jesus. But do you know what's bad is that this could have a knock-on effect on finding the next future world champion. You know,
100%, especially for Japan. Especially for Japan, who this was going to help make Japanese boxing sort of attractive to the youth and stuff. So yeah, we saw what happened in London 2012 and what that did for English boxing. So yeah, so it could be a very bad knock-on effect for Asian boxing in general. It could be a very bad knock-on effect for all of boxing in general. But I agree with the IOC. We cannot have a boxing tournament at the Olympics that is paid for and corrupt. That's pointless. So it is good. No. Someone should make them clean themselves up. So,
I mean, do you watch much Olympic boxing? Every 4 years, I watch it, but
I watch it. Yeah,
I don't watch all of it. I watch bits.
I do. I kind of watch the qualifiers a little bit too. I don't really follow amateur boxing other than for the Olympic tryouts and the Olympics, and I find it really fun to watch then.
Do you watch the Boxing World Championships occasionally? I do occasionally, but
occasionally
boxing is different to what.
Yeah. Occasionally I do. I kind of prefer if I'm going to watch something that isn't professional boxing, I prefer the WSB, the World Series of Boxing.
But
yeah, because there's no head guard.
Scoring, didn't they change the point scoring system in the last Olympics?
Yes. They changed it from every shot landed to a 10-point must, which doesn't work for 3 rounds. It's really stupid.
It was better when you had, say, if you hit somebody with a 6-point combination, if you hit 5 out of 6, you got 5 points. That was much better.
Right. I agree. The old scoring was far more, not accurate, but far more. You could go back over the fight, and you could easily see if the judges were wrong or not. Whereas now it's just subjective opinion. And I think they did that on purpose to get away with corruption. And I hope they go back to the old point scoring system. I really do. I think it's much better for the... It makes the sport look more clean. When you can see a punch land and a point scored, it's just easy.
Yeah, I mean... I hope they don't go ahead and do ban it, because it's going to have a bad effect on future world boxing in the next.
Sure, I hope they don't ban it, but with that being said, I hope they don't ban it because AIBA clean themselves up. If AIBA don't clean themselves up, then to be honest with you, it has to be banned, because handing out fake gold medals is worse for the sport than handing out no gold medals.
If this was in Russia, there would be no talk of banning. There'd just be bribes, probably.
Sure. Well, I disagree, because the IOC are under a lot of pressure to make themselves look clean. The Olympic Commission the International Olympic Committee have had a lot of scandals against them, and they can't afford to have any corruption at the Olympics because it looks bad on them too. So I think this has been coming for a little while now, to be honest.
We'll see what happens. You know, we've got a long road.
Sure, still 2 years to go. Hopefully AIBA fire this Uzbekistani heroin drug kingpin. Alleged alleged. I don't want to get sued.
And there's a twist to this as well. Anvil Katsidi is behind all this.
I wouldn't be surprised. The Georgian guy who was supposed to fight Billy Joe Saunders is secretly orchestrating it all from prison.
Oh dear.
That would be
funny. I never
funny.
did hear much about whatever happened to him.
He's going down for a long time.
Oh dear.
He got done on.
Anyway.
He got done on. Well, not a poor bugger. He's a fucking violent criminal. He got done on. No, kidnap, extortion, fraud, racketeering, everything. Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
Anyway,
funny. We'll do. When I see that his court case is up, we'll cover that because it is a bit crazy.
When are you doing your IBO video?
That will be probably the end of this week, the start of next week.
Are you doing that by yourself?
I don't have to, man, but we'll have to have a little talk off air about. I'll create if we're going to do it together, I'll create a sort of timeline of what I want to go over in the video. But
Okay.
I'll give people more information on that as and when it comes. I was going to do the IBO history and the IBO future in separate videos, but I've changed my mind. I'm just going to do an IBO long video. I think that's the best way.
Okay.
But yeah, we'll leave it there for this week, man. That was we covered everything well. We covered all the fights. Oh, we missed one fight, but that was the Ramirez Ahmed fight. But I haven't actually watched that, so I'll watch it and we'll cover that briefly in our next video.
Okay, people. I guess this is goodbye then.
Yeah, peace out, everyone. Have a great week. Thanks for stopping by. I will post this on Twitter and Facebook, and please leave a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more content as it comes.
Bye, people.
Peace.